Welcome to the Pregnancy Help Podcast. I am Christine Grimmett, and I'm here with Valerie Harkins, our maternity housing specialist at Heartbeat International, and Suzanne Burns, executive director of Foundation House. We've had Suzanne on for podcasts and webinars for Heartbeat in the past, so it's a pleasure to have her with us again. As we know, we're now in the holiday season, and there's a lot of joy and excitement for most of us, but we remember too that some people are really struggling during this season because of past trauma, strained family relationships, things that make this season especially difficult. So we want to bring awareness to that and help educate listeners on how to help those who are especially struggling right now. Everyone needs time to rest and step away from work, even when you love what you do in ministry. Our team at Option Line, our 24/7 pregnancy helpline, is ready to answer calls even during hours that your center's doors are closed. Heartbeat affiliates can forward those calls to Option Line so that callers are able to talk to a real person who's ready to help with their pregnancy questions. If you're a pregnancy help ministry that would like to find out more, email info@optionline.org. The Option Line team is available 24/7 by phone, chat, text, and email at optionline.org. Valerie, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. So this is such an interesting topic, and I'm glad, Suzanne, that you're joining me today because the holiday season is one of my most favorite seasons of the year, but sometimes for different reasons than what one might expect. So although I am one of those Hallmark movie marathoners at Christmas time, the reason that this is my favorite season of the year is because it is such a unique time for discipleship and hospitality, specifically for the hurting and those that don't know Christ. So that really brings up a whole kind of slew of questions and conversation about how does that relate to what we do in maternity housing? And so I'm glad you're here today. I want to pick your brain a little bit about what you have found in your experience with holiday season and serving residents in the maternity home setting. So before I start to just drill you with question after question, why don't you start with telling us about your home and about what holiday season looks like in your home?
We can house 6 clients with children in the house, as long with individual bedrooms. We can house more if necessary, but then we also have a non-residential program too. And so we see a lot of clients come in and out. The majority of our clients have a high trauma history, high addiction history, low education levels, and really low employability levels. So the majority of our clients are, working retail, they're working fast food. A few are able to work like factory jobs while they're kind of early in their pregnancy, but not once the baby's born because of daycare hours. So we're kind of a busy fluid type place, and we have a lot of pieces moving in a lot of different directions. So the holidays for us is just different. Every household is a little bit different. Sometimes we have girls who can go home for the holidays. Other times we have girls who, want to see their family, but really don't want to be very close to them. A lot of times for Thanksgiving, the girls will come to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, and we'll do like a family style Thanksgiving with just Foundation House staff and clients in and around that time. But we want them to see what family looks like, but we also want to honor their family of origin, but we also want to protect them, all at the same time. And so it makes it challenging. And a lot of our girls have had really, really great tragedies in their past that are rooted in the holiday season. And so for those girls, it's an even tighter tightrope that we walk with them. This is a season both of joy and of love and of relationship, but it's also a season of major depressive disorder, of seasonal affective disorder, of depression, of suicide and suicidal attempts. And so it really is a season that's fraught with a lot of challenges on a lot of different fronts.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me, and also really aligns with what I've I've found working with residents in the homes. Exactly what you're talking about kind of blends with something else that I've seen is that in addition to all of the hurt and trauma, and then also the societal pressure for the perfect Hallmark family,
exactly,
the commercialization of that, we also have a largely unchurched generation that sometimes maybe isn't even aware of what the Christmas story is. And so one of my favorite stories that I revisit every year to keep myself fresh and others is I remember a time that I was working with a resident. We were decorating in the home and we were setting up a nativity. And I don't know, in some conversation, I referenced the nativity, presuming she knew what that was. And turned out she had no idea what I was talking about. So I asked her, well, let's start with this. What do you know about Jesus? And she says, well, I know, I heard about him on The Simpsons once, but that's all I know. And so from her perspective, if you think about it from a completely unchurched perspective, the Christmas season is only what you see in the stores or on the TV and on the radio. So it is both the projection and pressure of this idyllic life, plus all of her personal trauma, and oftentimes no awareness of hope in Christ, that Christ came to be the hope of the world. And so that really opened my eyes and I think forever changed my perspective of opportunities during the holiday season. So here's what I kind of want to start with, picking your brain on this piece here. Would you say there are opportunities for healing at the Christmas season in the maternity home? But on that same token, my balancing question would be, would you say there's opportunities for further hurt during the Christmas season in the maternity home?
I feel like that's a setup, Val. I think the answer to both of them is yes. There's always opportunity for hope and for healing and for restoration, but then there is also always that opportunity for it to be that much worse, for the traumatic events of the past to only be strengthened, to only be deepened. And I think, just here's a perfect example. My church, every year, we do a ladies' Christmas dinner. And because of who I am and who I am here at Foundation House, they almost always invite us with tickets for free, which is great, I'm very grateful for it. I love my church family. But in some years, the particular clients that I've had in the house, it wasn't wisdom for us to take them out into public, even though I know it is a safe space. They did not feel comfortable with that. And so, and for a whole variety of reasons, people ask inappropriate questions. Oh, you're one of the Foundation House girls. When are you due? Or, oh, you're the one who gave your baby up for adoption. No, we don't say those things. It's challenging when you have a mix of volunteers, a mix of ignorant but loving onlookers, and then a mix of girls who are carrying a heavy trauma load. So it gets challenging sometimes. And there have been times when I've been asked to speak, and I personally don't like speaking when I have my girls in the audience, because I don't ever want them to feel uncomfortable or be made to feel like they're being put on the spot, or for anybody in the audience to think that I'm sharing their particular stories. So it creates this, and of course, the churches always want me to bring the girls because that's the show, right? And I don't participate in the show. So it always creates these opportunities for increased harm. Everything we do when we're working with a population with a trauma history, there is an opportunity to increase harm. And if we're not careful, that's exactly what we're going to do. So we have to be mindful, and that much more so this time of year. So we have a lot of conversations around those very same Hallmark movies, around those very same belief systems. What do you think family ought to look like? And this can give opportunity to grieve the mother that she actually had instead of the mother she wanted or needed. So it can bring a lot of healing, but healing only comes with intentionality. If we are not intentional about bringing the right things to her carefully in the right way, we are going to reinforce the hurt.
So I'm curious, how do you know when you have a resident that has this history of trauma, maybe specifically in the area of a holiday season? I mean, how would she present that to you? Because I'm imagining, Suzanne, she probably doesn't wake up the day after Halloween and say, I would like for you to know that for the next 60 to 90 days, these are the areas that I have negative memories and conflicted emotions, and I'm a little vulnerable, right? I'm assuming she doesn't wake up and do that. And so I would guess that it's a bit of a puzzle that we're figuring out and that we're discerning. So what are some things that those working in homes would be looking for, where residents would be presenting maybe behaviors that were a clue to them to say, hey, this may be a hurtful season for them?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, if she's a fairly new client, you may see things like she's behaving in a depressive way, in a differently than before, unusually. So maybe she's not interested in participating in the household decorating of the Christmas tree, or she doesn't want to talk about family traditions and past stories. And so you might be able to pull her aside or in case management and say, well, what did Christmas look like in the past? And on staff, we have a number of people who have less than positive past Christmas experiences. So we're not shy about talking about those hurts as well as we move into the Christmas season. One of our past clients, she lost her father shortly before Halloween. She lost her mother shortly before Christmas, and she also experienced a miscarriage in that same general time. That was all over multiple separate years, but it was the same season. And so by the time she came to us, we already knew what she was carrying, because she was talking about needing to go to her father's gravesite. Like she had a ritual of how she survived this season. And so we were able to kind of come alongside her and observe at first how she grieved. And for her, it was a lot of anger and running away, at least emotionally. So she would run away and close herself off. When she couldn't run away physically and actually leave the property, she would run away emotionally. And so she would shut down. So we observed this for a while. And then we were able to begin, once we've got trust built, we were able to begin to kind of challenge it gently. Is there something else that we could do to help? How can we talk through these emotions? Do you want to see a therapist regarding it? Do you want to discuss these things? How can we help you so that you build good memories with your child? And that's really one place where we found a lot of success with her, was that, we can't change the Christmases that came and went, but what we can do is we can help you build new traditions so that your daughter doesn't ever feel this way about this season. And so she was able to receive it. It's almost like, Jesus uses parables to teach deep truths. We were able to kind of come in the back door by talking about how her daughter is going to receive Christmas in years to come. And that was able to start bringing some healing to her, without her even realizing it.
It's a great point. I've noticed sometimes with the resident that particularly for those that have not come to know Christ yet, that the area where they are able to hope and dream is for their child. Where maybe their ability to hope for themselves has been quenched. Maybe it hasn't been resurrected yet from the dead, and they don't know a hope of a living Christ, and they certainly don't have hope and trust for others in the community. But what I found is that hope for their child's future oftentimes can be that motivation that gets them started on that healing journey. And so that's a great point. I'm so glad you brought that up, specifically in the holiday season, that I can imagine that being a comforting starting place for the residents to start with healing in the holiday season, which would be, what does she dream of and what does she want for her child, right? And let's start there. And what kind of norms and atmosphere and experiences does she want her child to have? It seems, Suzanne, I don't know if you've seen this, but it seems like as she's working to build out the childhood she dreams of for her child, she really begins to walk out healing from her own childhood at the same time.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, Suzanne, we have a lot of startup homes this year in particular. And I know that these homes, I've spoken with a few of them, are so excited for the Christmas season. And so they are, working on getting donations, decorating the home, building traditions, hearing about Christmas cookies and all of these great things. What would you say, knowing what you know now, and if you could go back to year one, Christmas one with Foundation House Ministries, what would you say to yourself or to these new homes that are entering the Christmas season this year?
I think it's all about balance. So often we try to do everything with these girls and kind of give them in one Christmas season all of the love and affection and events and relationships that they never had in all of their past 18 or 20 years. And then we're exhausted because they don't appreciate it, or they're overwhelmed, or they kind of are still carrying that resentment and depression and the sense of shame that, you guys are so wonderful and love me so well, but my own mom doesn't, or my own parents kicked me out, or along those lines. And so I think it's just so much about balance, and it's less about what you are doing for her and more about what she is ready to receive. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for a lot of volunteers that just want to come in and love and bake cookies and do all of these great things. And then they're disappointed when the girls, don't want to come out of their rooms or don't know how to bake. And so they feel inadequate because, a lot of volunteers will come in kind of assuming that you know how to make cookies. They've done it for years. They did it with their kids and probably their grandkids. And so these girls, for a lot of them, that is not something they've ever experienced. So they don't even know how to measure. They don't know what tools are necessary. So there's intimidation on the part of the client. There can be intimidation as far as, is this volunteer even going to like me? Am I going to be a complete and total failure? In addition to, I don't know how to do these things. I don't know what my role is. And so there's that awkwardness. And so it can come across to a volunteer or a new staff person as, as rudeness or as, just not being interested in it when it's really her anxiety. And so it's a lot of balance. And you'll have some clients that are like, oh yeah, diving in feet first, absolutely everything. And then they blow up later. And then you have others that want to hide in their rooms and eventually kind of creep out like that, like the little Christmas mouse. And you've got to learn how to balance both. and let them know that both are acceptable. You don't have to dive in full on Hallmark movie. You can kind of dip your toes in and just see that it is not so bad. But really, all of the trappings of the Christmas season, a lot of times they kind of overshadow the reality of Jesus and why he came and why we celebrate his birth this way. And so it can be it can be pros and cons, you know. So we keep things very simple here, partly because we're tired and we need it simple, but partly because that's what our clients have gotten accustomed to.
That's great input. One of the things that I experienced myself, and I've been speaking with others, and it seems like they've experienced it also, but once we get to that place where the concept that serving residents during Christmas time is less about what we are doing or what we're giving and more about what the Lord is doing and where the resident is, right? As you said, what she's ready to receive. Seems to be this time where that awareness travels from our head with our knowledge to down south to acceptance in our heart. And one of the things that I found is that when that really travels down to acceptance in our heart, it creates this emotionally safe environment for the resident to feel whatever she needs to feel. And she doesn't know what that is. She doesn't understand what it's called. She doesn't understand why she feels the way she feels. She doesn't know why she's maybe unreasonably angry or irritable about something that seems unrelated. She doesn't understand what's happening on the inside of her. So when it's not about us and it's not about our expectations, then we have the freedom to allow what could seem like rejection roll off and remain safe for her. And if she needs to push and pull emotionally throughout the whole season as she figures that out, then that's okay, because it leaves us as that stable and steady place for her, which makes me excited for the opportunities of what she learns about trust and community, through that time. So go ahead.
I think it's a grieving process that she has to have permission to go through, grieving the Christmases that didn't look like it does this year, grieving the fact that I'm surrounded by all you people instead of a loving family, grieving that, my baby daddy doesn't want to build the family that he promised me when we created this child. It's part of a grieving process, and we have to give her permission to grieve as she needs to grieve. And, we have found that a lot of our volunteers and staff need that as well. We as a society have overhyped the Christmas season, and I love the Hallmark Channel as much as anybody. I mean, I was at Christmas in July myself, but that's also because there's nothing else on that's worth watching. But we've overhyped it to the point that it's created in all of us a traumatic response to our own childhood Christmases or our own lack of the perfect Christmas.
So I know we have a webinar coming up about this. Do you want to tell our listeners about that webinar and what's going to be happening then?
Yeah, we're really excited about that. That's going to be with myself and Lisa Holmes, who is our Director of Client Services here at Foundation House. She also lives on site with the clients. And so that webinar is going to be a lot more, this has been kind of like a general overview. That's going to be a lot more detailed about how we walk with clients, questions that we ask on the front end, interventions that we may do, activities that we may do to help draw clients out and to help increase their relationship to their children, as well as to build stable, healthy connections with the family of origin that is still in their lives.
Awesome. So that webinar is going to be December 14th. We will have that registration link in a few places, but the easiest way to get it is through our Heart and Home newsletter that comes out once a month. And so if you are not subscribed to Heart and Home, feel free to email me at housing@heartbeatinternational.org, and we will get you all set up with that. So I'm looking forward to that, Suzanne. specifically in spending some intentional time this year thinking about the Advent season as it relates to evangelism opportunities for those that have either rejected Christ or don't know about Christ. And that is really leaning or lending itself to also this thought of what does it look like to create space for healing during the a holiday season in that maternity home setting. So I'm excited. Thank you for sharing your time today with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Valerie and Suzanne. You had me thinking about the different ways that we can apply this information. I know a lot of our listeners to this episode specifically are working in maternity home setting, and this has given us such a wonderful peek into that world. I love getting to know what you guys are doing in the homes, but we can also use this information in the center setting as clients are seeing over the holiday season. But then also just personally, we all know family and friends who are maybe mourning a loss that happened within the past year, and this is the first Christmas without someone, or have had family strained relationships in the past, and how we can just be mindful and intentional about how we're celebrating with them, along with having our own traditions. So thank you. This really has me thinking. So if you found this information helpful, please share with a friend. You can rate our podcast. You can subscribe. And I will post a link to that webinar registration in our description for the podcast if you're interested in that and you work in ministry. So thanks again, Valerie and Suzanne, and thanks to our listeners for listening to this episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast.